Welcome to this month's Member Spotlight. Jeff Widgren. We are both Zoom experts.
You evaluate kind of what does the world need and what have I got to offer. There's a lot that can be done and even third-party tools that can be used.
Any of those audio and video settings are so important, aren't they?
It's an investment to, most people's careers, right? That is the essence of Zoom's effort.
I know how valuable it is to be able to come together with other people and try out features.
It's a fascinating solution to a very, very common problem.
I get very excited about things like polls to breakout rooms. It is somewhat difficult to multitask by doing all of those skills. However, Zoom makes it very easy. All right, well, there we are. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this month's Member Spotlight. I'm Betsy Coyne, and I'm here with our guest this month, Jeff Widgren. I'm going to get into a fun interview as we are both Zoom experts, and I'll explain a little bit about how I came to meet Jeff. And as everybody gets settled, I know that this live will be coming across your feed. And as you all get settled in to join us, welcome. Jeff is a virtual event producer. He is the owner of a production group called Stream Sharks. And he also freelances for live and hybrid events. So he is my go-to for any events that I would want to run that are not pure Zoom. I always say that if it's pure Zoom, that's my thing. I'm in the application right down to the menu, right? What it does, why it does it, how you use certain Zoom features, and sometimes they can get a little particular and how to deal with that. Jeff takes it to a whole new level, which is producing events using third-party programs. And he's going to demonstrate a little bit for that, just how he's in here with us today. And then last but not least, he is the owner and founder of the Zoom Test Kitchen. And that's how I came to know him. It is a group of like-minded individuals like me who have maybe that technical interest in the application. And Jeff brings us together every Friday to test out the features. And that's how I came to know him. So with that introduction, welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, and welcome. Please tell everybody about yourself and how you would add to that.
Very good. Well, thanks for having me on, Betsy. And it's been just tremendous to get to know you and watch your efforts and learn from your efforts as well. And your strengths in marketing by far outweigh mine, which is one of my weak points, but the technical side is definitely where my heart's been all my life, actually. So I come from the IT world prior to early 2020 when the pandemic came down on us. I had been in the data center sales for storage and working for Dell, working for Citrix and other companies out of Silicon Valley. And I was right there at a transition point and the pandemic came. So, answering phones and getting people's attention to find that next great role wasn't going to happen and didn't happen. So I thought, well, what am I going to do with myself? And so you evaluate kind of what does the world need and what have I got to offer? And I had been streaming for our church for 10 or 11 years. And the world kind of needed to know how to reach their audience. And some of them chose, to do it via delivery, right? With a live stream. Some were grabbing onto this thing called Zoom. And I certainly couldn't ignore the Zoom side as well. So early 2020, I started digging into that as well, but quickly realized that I needed to test things. And in order to test things, features and behaviors and so forth inside of Zoom, you need people. And so with that, I thought, well, I'll invite some folks that I know. But I took it a step further and said, I'll just pick a day and a time every week, let the group know, create a Facebook group called Zoom Test Kitchen. It was either going to be the Zoom Sandbox, which is kind of a developer's term of a testing environment, or the Zoom Test Kitchen. I just thought it was a little catchier on the Zoom Test Kitchen, and put it out there. And so, 2+ years later, we've got 1,100-ish members of that group, and lots that show up every Friday afternoon at 3, and we just dig in. It's just casual. It's sometimes there's a little bit of an agenda, especially when there's like new feature releases and stuff like that. But we just dig in. It's not all about hearing from me. I'm the host. I might moderate and kind of push the conversation along, but there's a lot of folks who know a lot inside, and it's just a great, healthy place, friendly environment for folks who come in pretty new and or want to extend their Zoom expertise and maybe even outside to those third-party tools. So that's what keeps me busy from freelancing, like you mentioned, on live events, because there's a lot of live events that are back, hybrid events. One thing companies have learned is we don't want to ignore that remote audience, and we want to kind of keep those. I think during the pandemic, they learned that a borderless event, right, and those who can just connect, was a really, really good thing. And there's been a lot of technology that's been developed over the last 2 years that have really helped us do that and do it well. So they don't want to give that up. And so there's a lot of hybrids out there, like them or not. If they're done right, they can be somewhat effective, but it's fun. It's a very fast moving environment with lots of new technology and so forth. But I'll wind back and let's start with just Zoom. And, just within the constraints of Zoom, there's a lot that can be done, and even third-party tools that can be used to get rid of what I refer to as clunky Zoom meetings. There's somebody back there. Sometimes it's the presenter, sometimes it's a helper, but they're managing that Zoom meeting with a mouse, and they're clicking on these tiny little dots to get spotlight choices or mute choices or things like that. And there's just such better ways to do it, so it's faster, more accurate, more dependable, and so forth. So
yeah, tell everybody, and you might have to teach us a little bit too, because some of the members in here, and if you're here with us live, welcome, and please put in the comments what your questions are for Jeff and for myself. We're here to answer your Zoom questions, but I wanted Jeff to teach us a little bit about what the names of these applications are that complement Zoom, so to not make it as clunky. So what's there on your list, Jeff?
Yeah, so within Zoom, but kind of a power tool add-on for Zoom is one that was developed externally from Zoom, from a company called Liminal Entertainment Technologies, called ZoomOSC. And OSC is a protocol. It's just it's a language back and forth. If both ends speak it, then they can communicate, and you can do things remotely to that. So they wrote this add-on, if you will, called ZoomOSC that if you think about within the feature set of Zoom, there are shortcuts, right? But there's not a shortcut to Spotlight Betsy or Spotlight Jeff or Spotlight Betsy and Jeff. Or when you spotlight those two speakers, unmute them, spotlight them, and maybe their hands were raised, to get the moderator's attention, lower their hands, all in one push, right? To be able to do that. So it really, in my pre-roll of the Zoom Test Kitchen, I say Zoom on steroids, and then I list ZoomOSC. It's a fantastic add-on. It's one of those things in your tool belt, whether you're the one behind the scenes, which I highly recommend, and most meetings have somebody assisting you as the speaker or presenter. Have somebody behind the scenes that has all the decks and can quickly and easily share and spotlight and mute and unmute and let people in. I mean, same thing. And I have button pushes that, will enable or disable the waiting room, who will select individuals from the waiting room. So I can say, hey, you, and you, admit from the waiting room, because those might be your panelists, right? And then it just goes on and on. I'll show a few pages later, but yeah, it's just a great power tool, and one that I just feel like nobody should be without.
Two of the other, if I could interject, because I know, learning from you the last couple of months, another one you use is called VMEX, another one is called Companion. So how do they work together or differ from ZoomOSC?
Yeah, so ZoomOSC, it's like, what's the interface, right? So ZoomOSC, as you download it and install it, it's a Zoom client, just very similar, but with more tools behind it. I could be in this meeting right now by launching ZoomOSC. It's a Zoom client. You can join meetings, you can host meetings, the whole bit. I happen to run it on the side on a second computer, join the meeting, and manage the technical piece of the meeting there, while I host it here on the regular Zoom client delivered by Zoom. But you can do it either way. But it's one of those things. It kind of goes along with best practices. Do you have a backup? If your primary Zoom host computer goes down, loses connectivity, whatever the case may be, do you have another system joined into the meeting, whether it's your phone, your tablet, another computer, that was really second to arrive, right? You launched it to be the host, then you joined it with your second system. That's the second arrival. And the reason I point that out, that second arrival, is if I disappear as the host, the next earliest arriving co-host will become the host automatically. And so having, those built-in systems for, continuation, as continuity of the meeting, right, are just really, really good practices as well. VMEX, which I have here, if for instance I were to pop up and introduce myself to everybody with a lower third, my camera is going to my computer. In my computer is installed VMEX. There's other solutions out there, OBS, Ecamm, there's many. And it's just, the video signal goes through this application first before it lands as the camera input of Zoom. And so anything I want to do with it, add bugs, I've got one queued up here for the Mac. You see, I've got another, that's from I'm on my PC right now, but that's from the Mac next to me, to be able to, change a display, but I've told it to automatically pop me up in the circle, because it's essential that the presenter maintain that eye contact, right? And you want the audience to continue to see you speak, see your eyes, and so forth. And if I need to bounce that pip, I can turn it off, I can turn it on, but all that comes from something in the middle before that camera input. So anything I'm telling VMix to do, then the output of that is the camera to Zoom. And so it's a result that way. Anyways, it's one of those things. I sometimes I can be really frank, about my thoughts, and one of them currently is, hey, it's been almost 3 years now since the pandemic hit, and this scurry for solutions of virtual meetings started kicking into our lives, and Zoom really has won the race, if you will, gaining the majority of the users out there. But it's been 3 years. I mean, I say, if you still look bad, sound bad, don't have some of those extra tools working to your benefit to deliver a good, solid presentation, shame on you. It doesn't take. I mean, it does take some education, but it's an investment to most people's careers, right? Is if you were the number one salesperson, it was probably because, maybe you drove a nice vehicle that looked good. You came in dressed appropriately. Our new three-piece suit these days is a good mic, camera, and lighting. And we just have to make that investment to really make that happen, help us shine when we're in that meeting.
And also, I'll speak for the somewhat newbies out there because sometimes when I attend a Zoom test kitchen, I don't use VMEX, I don't use ZoomOSC. And there's another one called Companion, which you're just going over now in the last test kitchen Fridays. And by the way, I put the links in the comments of this video thread in the Facebook group here that Jeff's provided. He's been gracious enough to offer a discount, obviously, on his expertise as a consultant. So if you're listening right now saying, okay, I don't know any of this and I need to look better, sound better, and he's been gracious enough to offer a discount, and that's in the comments. But so for the newbies who, look, I'm not in my regular Zoom home office, so to speak, right now. And if I could turn the camera around, you would see that I had to bring over extra lighting. There was a desk lamp in the other room. I have my microphone that I travel with in my suitcase, my extra microphone, and my extra webcam, which is right there. So what are some tips that you would give people who are listening right now, who are just heard you and said, oh my goodness, I have been doing this since the pandemic, since the worldwide shutdown, and I haven't focused on that because I am new to that area of expertise and it scares me. So what would you tell them is the first step?
You said, and it scares me. And that, I think that's just super accurate and shouldn't be overlooked is the sense is there's a lot of people who are in fact still allowing the feeling of intimidation, be it technology, photography, the audio, things like that. And the other assumptive, fear is that it costs a lot of money, to really step it up. And, that's very subjective. So, when I throw out, maybe some budget ideas and so forth that will really up your game, I may say it's budget and you may say I'm out of my mind. But needless to say, I'm sitting in front of, a $5,000 camera and lens, but I already had it, because I've been a photographer, for years. And so, I just put it to use was all. But,
Yes.
To be able to do that, really up the video portion of the game these days, there was a camera called the InstaLink 3 or Insta360 Link. And it's tiny. It's just a small little webcam, but it's 4K. It's actually a PTZ, which is it has the ability to pan, tilt, and zoom as well. And its color and clarity is amazing, and it's like a $300 camera. And so it's very travelable, so you can take it with you. But kind of number one rule for me to share with folks is don't use an internal camera, don't use an internal mic, and stop using speakers, open speakers, when you're in a Zoom meeting. Use in-ears. And I over the years, I'm fine with if somebody has over the ears, I just say thanks. But I don't particularly care for the look, but in-ears work great. And you can get in-ears for $35, $50. You can spend a lot more, but in-ears work great.
Let me interject. Tell the audience, what does that do for you? I don't have a headset on. I am hearing you through my laptop speaker. Yep. So just a teaching moment. What does that do for us?
Yeah. So, when you're speaking to me, for instance, we'll just talk that path. If I were listening to you on my open speakers, while I'm listening to you, my mic is still open as well. And so those speakers have the potential of coming right back into not only my ears, but my microphone, which goes right back into the meeting as well. That that is the essence of Zoom's effort and many vendors' efforts of trying their best to eliminate echo. And they refer to it as echo cancellation. And so they do a great job with it. But the fact of the matter is they can't always get it just right. And so, being able to distinguish, like, music teachers, vocal teachers, instruments and so forth, to be able to get that sound, even when you're playing a video or a music track, when we're trying to deliver music, for instance, or a video, you have to turn on in Zoom what's called original sound. And the primary purpose of turning that on is to tell it to stop suppressing the noise, that what it's determining is noise, background noise, and so forth. Because if you don't, that sound, that music is not going to come through. And if it does, it'll come through really choppy. And so when you turn on original sound, now your open speakers have a lot more opportunity to get through the microphone. They do have an option, even when you enable original sound, to still keep echo cancellation on. And it's, if you want to know what Zoom has been busy with on their help desk with customers that have issues and challenges and problems and so forth, you just watch the features that come out, and because that's what drives it. And so, they had major problems, reputation issues as well, that, Zoom's audio is horrible. It's like, it's the practices of those attending the Zoom meeting, open speakers and original sound on when it really doesn't need to be on versus off most of the time, and so forth. And so it's just understanding the audio path, right? So in ears, I can, that's the only sound there. If my wife were to walk into the studio right now, she would not hear an ounce of this meeting because it's all tightly in my ears. I can hear myself speaking as well. And I didn't used to do that, but I have a setup that allows me without delay to hear my own voice. Nobody can talk if you're hearing yourself slightly delayed. I end up talking molasses because it's terrible. But if you have the opportunity to listen to yourself live, it's easier to converse as well. So I can hear all parties, including myself, and it's all in the ear. And it's a fascinating solution to a very, very common problem.
Love that. Thank you for doing that, because I know the things that I think about when I listen to you sometimes fall into many of the members that are in this group, because I don't use a lot of the add-ons that might be in maybe a more or a bigger virtual event. In that I support many educators who are teaching classes, and a lot of the times they don't have that other moderator there to help them. And so my world is primarily pure Zoom. So whenever I see you with something, or you've shown me your lighting, which could be as simple as a $25 purchase either from IKEA or Walmart, or to create soft lighting, and then I learn from that when I travel. So I know that's very helpful to people who are here. So what are and I wanted to add, when you were talking about echo cancellation, any of those audio and video settings are so important, aren't they? And they're inside Zoom, that people look at those first before you go live, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It shouldn't be an unreasonable ask. Let's say you're part of a panel with a sizable event. It shouldn't be an unreasonable ask for the production company to schedule a rehearsal or schedule a rehearsal and ask you to arrive 30 to 40 minutes prior to going live on the event day. And the whole reason for that is framing. If I sit back like this, or it's like, what's the size of your face, right? I mean, like, are you really too close?
Yes.
Are you too far back?
Yes.
Left, right, and so forth, because commonly when it's in a production, it's not just in Zoom the way we see it, the tiled video windows and so forth. It may just be one big spotlight, and everything that's going into that spotlight is being produced. And that means all the speakers are in a different meeting. We're pulling in their video independently. We're building custom panels. We're putting up lower thirds and so forth. And when you put more than, two people, like you and I are side by side right now, and so our whole 16:9 ratio video fits just fine. But when you start doing a moderator with 4 or 6 panelists, now all of a sudden your video is cropped. Everybody has to be cropped. So if you're not centered and you're cropped, you're out of frame. Like we only see part of your face maybe. And so it just coaching, guidance, and audio level sound check. So some folks don't pay, haven't ever had to pay attention to like their sound level. Am I too loud? Am I too soft? And how do I change that? Right. Most people just use Zoom the way Zoom installs, and it has auto gain. So if you're quiet, it brings it up. If you're loud, it brings it down, things like that. Well, that doesn't always suffice, in an event that we really want this, nice level, consistent audio level from all the different speakers. And so it takes, a little bit of effort to get all that prepared, let alone one of the biggest challenges is presentations. Slide decks and, well, let's show you a video clip and so forth. Who's going to own that? Who's going to play it? How's it going to be presented? All too many times it's, the speaker who's also, kind of running the show technically. And, they're clumsily, trying to get the share to work and sizing. Once it's shared, then they're trying to maximize the window and hit play. And they forgot to optimize for video and audio before, so they had to start over. We've seen it all, right? And so, having assistants, skilled, experienced assistants is a big plus. But also having, if you can't do that, at least have your assistant be some of those outside, technologies, add-on technologies. ZoomOSC, I have to make a note, a couple of notes so far. ZoomOSC has since been acquired. So Liminal Entertainment Technologies originally developed it, but they've since been acquired just over a year ago from Zoom. Zoom bought it. It was that good of a add-on tool. And there's another one called Zoom ISO. And so there's that. The Zoom Test Kitchen, where you talked about me offering a discount on people who met me here and may contact me. That I just don't want anybody to interpret that that's like 20% off the Zoom Test Kitchen. The Zoom Test Kitchen is free. The Zoom Test Kitchen is it's a community that I've built. It's my way to give back, and I learn a ton there as well. So that's Friday afternoons at 3:00 Eastern, and there's no fees or anything associated to that. It's the professional services side that.
Thank you for clarifying. And it's what I do here in my Zoom Expert Q&A group, which is a free group to anyone who wants to join. And we do this live once a month. I'm also present here answering questions and putting in my gems that I learn. You do the test kitchen every Friday. And I know that even for people who are listening in now saying, well, I don't use ZoomOSC, I don't use Zoom ISO and those third-party add-ons yet, I do need some more knowledge about Zoom features and how they work. And, for those people who are my students, I have something called the Zoom Playground, which is part of my paid membership and courses. So I know how valuable it is to be able to come together with other people and try out features that you can't get them to work in Zoom unless you have at least 5 people present. So sometimes the screen changes, the views change. So just talk a little bit about, I put the link in the comments, but how would people get to a Zoom Test Kitchen on a Friday? How would they do that? Since it's free, they might as well.
Yeah, so there's a Facebook group it's a private group at this point. There's a public page as well. It is admittedly not as kept up as much as the private group itself, but I
I'll
feel
also
like,
put, Jeff, I'll interject. I'll also put
yeah,
the, I think you gave me the YouTube link. Yeah, you did. I'll put that
yeah,
in the comment thread as well.
yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because we live
Mhm.
stream our Friday afternoon meetings to YouTube, and so you can just monitor it like a like a podcast, if you will. It's good to see it as well because there's a lot of visuals often. But yeah, join the Facebook group and we'll get you approved and in there. The event invites go out there, and also we'll get you on the mailing list. And when there's special meetings or times or tips or tricks, and but I also send usually Thursdays for the Friday meeting is I'll distribute that to the email list as well. And there's links, so we have a Discord channel that, is kind of the technical platform to ask the deeper questions, and Facebook group, it's just plenty to maintain, right? But everybody individually has their own kind of favorite platform, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, just for the watching and listening. But yeah, it's all out there, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
and then you just put it on your calendar. If you can make it, click on it, click on the invite, and
Yes.
if you can't, don't. But we're always there, and I may not always be the host. I often am, but I have some great stand-in hosts that super sharp, and they have way better personalities than I do, I think, too. So
Well,
it's a good time.
better personalities. That's not true. That's not true. I do know, just a little teaser, you and I haven't even planned this yet, but Zoom's newer features, coming into 2023, I always tell people it's not just a video conferencing tool anymore. It is a business communication tool. And there are
Yep.
things that have been added, like my new favorite, which is Zoom Team Chat. And anybody who's a student of mine has heard me say this every week. So you and I, just like I said, a little teaser, we haven't planned it yet, but we certainly have that space available to allow people to try it out and learn what it does. Because it's huge. It lets you chat, lets you continue the chat after the meeting has ended. You can think of it
Yeah.
that way. You
Yeah.
don't even have to be in a meeting.
Yeah. Here pretty soon it's going to, it could just be the Zoom Test Kitchen team chat thread. And it lives now. It's there when you log into the meeting on Friday. It's then there after you leave the meeting. It's just this continuing thread. And so it'll be appropriate for a lot of folks and users and groups and so forth. It may not suit everybody's needs, as far as privacy and things like that, chat threads that, continue to exist and so forth may not pass the muster, but it kind of still learning on all those pieces and parts. But yeah, they really are. I mean, in my Zoom client or in our Zoom client now, we can check our email, we can check our calendar, we can, schedule or join meetings. It's really becoming quite the rich tools. One of their coolest new features is I ran this meeting last Saturday that had about 700 and some odd folks in it in a single meeting. It's pretty healthy. I mean, you can't have, the maximum's 1,000, and so it's pretty good sized meeting at that. But and there's lots of considerations for audio management and video management and all that jazz. But being able to have the tools available, to be able to do that and have lockdown practices, it's like, yeah, these are features, but you have to have practices, personally. I always have the waiting room on, even in the Zoom Test Kitchen. I don't ever turn it off. We admit, but we don't ever turn off the waiting room. And then lately, I've noticed that even for a free Zoom account, you now have to provide a credit card. They're not going to charge anything to it, but it does validate who you are as an individual, which really just backs off the Zoom bombers, because now they have to be validated as an individual and their credit card, right? And so that's good. And so, so that encouraged me to, I had turned it off for a while, but encouraged me to turn back on require authentication in my scheduled meetings. And that means they have to be good with Zoom's login first, then they can come and register and join our meeting. And so then they have the waiting room. But I don't manage all that. Have your own bouncer, if you will, managing the waiting room for you. Have a moderator for the chat, and then mute upon entry. Everybody gets muted when they arrive. And in a big meeting like that, nobody's allowed to unmute ever, unless I ask them. And if I'm in the mode of lockdown for audio, but I, the host, ask them to unmute, and they'll get a little pop-up. They say yes, and it will allow them to unmute because I asked them to, versus them just trying to. So, even with 800, 900 people in a meeting, it's just a perfectly quiet meeting until you want an additional guest, right? So
I love that. And I know in one of our test kitchens a few months ago, we tested the focus mode, which is also a good one that a lot of people don't either know about or have used, which is, I always say, it's like that best kept secret to turn your meeting into a webinar. In a sense, it's not a Zoom webinar with that add-on, but it takes everybody's camera and turns it off. So
it does, except for the host and co-host, right? And so we can still see everybody and so forth. But if you're not in focus mode and you have 800 people in a meeting, and in this meeting in particular, this last Saturday, it's a really well-known author. And she's very popular, kind of star rated if you're in her circle of what she writes about and so forth. And people want to be seen, right? They want her to see them. They want to raise their hand and talk to her and so forth. It's kind of an experience. But needless to say, it is the largest meeting I manage with the most cameras that are on. It's crazy. Like it's got to be 65% of all those cameras are on. Well, you still have to kind of keep an eye on those to make sure people aren't doing things that are, just kind of silly, stupid, distracting, whatever the case may be. And it's not that everybody else in the audience is seeing that, but some of them are, because they're going to be on the same, it's a group set based on when you arrived. So, that same timed arrival group is going to be on the same page. And so you have to monitor that. Well, focus mode cures that, like you say, just put it in focus mode. Now what everybody sees is just what the hosts spotlight. And so we can see everybody, but if we're in focus mode, we don't have to worry about turning that person's video off. But if we're not in focus mode, we should pay attention to those and actually turn their video off on them, and so that others aren't getting distracted. I think it came about, focus mode, for the educational space, for students and so forth. So everybody goes to school, they log in, teacher has it in focus mode, and the kids don't get distracted by others, but the teacher can see them all. And then, if they want to bring one of those students on to talk, in front of everybody, they can. But it's a pretty cool, but like you said, not a very well-known feature, but it's really quite powerful at that.
Yeah. A lot of the people that I help in the real estate industry, they're real estate educators. Many states have regulations that in order for you to get credit for the class you're taking online and virtual with Zoom, that you must be on camera, and you must be on camera the whole time. And so focus mode doesn't come up a lot there because of that regulation. So it does bring about some other skills that are needed by the bouncer, or the even the presenter and teacher, instructor, bouncer. Sometimes they wear all those hats. And if you're here with us live, tell us so in the comments, or if you're watching back on the replay, tell us about your experiences with that, because it is somewhat difficult to multitask by doing all of those skills. However, Zoom makes it very easy between spotlighting yourself if someone does take themselves off mute and you don't want them coming up, you can spotlight yourself, as well as, obviously spotlighting is one of the only ways to control what was happening in their view. But like you said, people have the ability on their end to be in active speaker or in gallery, right?
Yeah. And it's one of those, on the radically, oh my gosh, edges of features. There are very few people that I know who have ever hit, when you go to a gas station, if you ever noticed that red panic button, that big red button that nobody pushes. But if there was a gas spill, that's what those red buttons are all about. And there's one, and it just shuts off all the tanks immediately, right? And stops the fuel from flowing. We have one of those in Zoom. We have a red panic button, and it's under the security shield as the host, and it I don't remember what its description is. You have it on your screen.
I think it's suspend. I think it's suspend.
Yeah,
get it.
Suspend
participant activities. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in red. And often, if people ever get curious, they may be a little too nervous to try it. Not in a real meeting, but you bring some folks together and so forth. But when you hit it, it's like something's gotten so bad you can't fix it, with pieces and parts. You don't know who did it, but something's really wrong. And so you just have to do this. Shuts off all the video, shuts off all the mics. It locks the meeting so no one else can join. And it just kind of pauses the entire thing. And then the host, you have to, you can turn your camera back on, you can unmute yourself, you can start providing guidance, and you can start bringing it back to life. But before that, you need to go solve the problem too, right? And I've been there. The Zoom Test Kitchen, year plus, a little bit over a year probably now. We got Zoom bombed bad, and it was terribly distasteful and embarrassing and the whole bit. And I had just gotten too relaxed. I mean, I still see posts that I saw one just yesterday or the day before. Well, can't I just use my personal meeting ID like all the time? It would be really convenient. And, it's just like, yeah, but I mean, the answer is, yeah, you can. And they even followed it with, I realize this, I realize this, I realize this, and his last point was, I realized that, I could have an unexpected guest in this meeting that I'm having with Betsy. And so all of a sudden somebody shows up. Well, yeah, you're using the same meeting ID for every single meeting you've got, which means anybody can come and go anytime they want.
Anytime.
And it's crazy. So
in any meeting that you were to hold in there, it's like you gave someone the address to your home, and anytime you're inside, they can come to that door. So sorry,
and some people even let there's an option to let people join prior to the host. It's like, now you've just given the world, your Zoom meeting. They don't get in as host, but they still have a meeting place, and so, it's this constant, battle sometimes of convenience. But I often think, I bet it, could be that same audience that would be the first complainers about getting Zoom bombed or having a bad experience or something too. And it's like, lock it down. I mean, Zoom has done so much, and they continue to add, features that, aren't necessarily convenient, but at the same time, it detours the Zoom bomber, people who, and what's Zoom bombing? Zoom bombing is, hey, I just want to go. I see this, meeting ID and password. Like I've publicly advertised the meeting ID and password to the Zoom Test Kitchen for 2 years now. Same meeting ID, same password, and it's no secret at all. Yeah. And that's usually, it wouldn't be on my best practice list, quite honestly, but right. I know everything that Zoom has done that I've leveraged to make it very unappealing, for somebody to actually show up, because they can go Zoom bomb until they go, it's kind of like a burner phone. They used to be able to create a free basic account, didn't have to really be them. Well, prior to creating the free basic account, they'd create a new email address, which was just a burner address. Then they'd go use that to create a free basic account. There was no have to provide a credit card. And so they just use it. And, if they feel like, it's time to go buy another burner phone, they just kill that account, they kill that email address, they go fire up a new one. But now they can't do that as easily as well because of this, validating credit card identity
Right.
without a charge, So I can give hats off to Zoom. For
Yeah, and just to reiterate for people who don't know that it is in the settings where you need to tell Zoom that you're only allowing authenticated users to join. So you have to make that connection in order to force people to at least have a free account, is what you're saying, in order to make their way in.
Yeah, so they sign up for a free account. Now they have to provide a credit card. So now Zoom doesn't have just this ghost, right? And what does that mean? Well, that means if you then say require authentication, you're basically saying you have to go get validated by Zoom first.
Yeah.
You have to come in with a real email address as well. And you can either allow mobile devices or not. That's your choice, because those take small exceptions to some of this. But then when they arrive, if they still choose to be a knucklehead in your meeting and cause problems, and you eject them or remove them from the meeting, that gets sent to the Trust and Safety Board in Zoom, who actively chases all these things down. And at that point, they have somebody to go talk to and penalize and so forth. They used to have a lot of dead ends, I think, and now they don't. So great enhancements for sure.
Yeah, it's great. And then you mentioned before the security shield, which is on my bar. I'm the host today, and I know, because I also am thinking of people who are members in this group who have this experience of their students who come to them regularly are not the type to make a Zoom account. And they can still join because they don't have that setting on that says they have to be authenticated. So if you're allowing people in, I love how you said that, they're knuckleheads, these people are there to take a course from you or get credit from you, but they're still misbehaving. You can, like you said, put them back in the waiting room. You can boot them from the meeting. You can even, some people make a breakout room, like the timeout room, and they put them in the one room because it sometimes is the only thing to get their attention that, hey, listen, if you don't, participate by being on camera and not on your phone, you won't get credit for this course. So, but in Zoom, you have all of these capabilities available to you. You don't have to use them all.
There's a bunch. Yeah, this and I mean, it's a recent job that I did, was this one Saturday. We open up part. It's a multi 6-session, event that she does with these attendees. And come the next one, this coming Saturday, they will all get grouped together into these groups. They use Beatles names, but with that, then that makes up their group. So up to this point, because there's so many, we have to open up usually the maximum 100 breakout rooms. We would just say, hey, put 6 to 8 people per room, and away you go, right? Just do it. We couldn't get it aligned without a whole lot of effort to getting those 6 to 8 people in their group, right? It would just be random distribution. Yes. Well, now we can pop up a poll that has a question with all the answers, and all the answers are that group number 1's name, group number 2's name, and so forth. Now we can just let the audience say, hey, we're going to pop up a poll, find and select your group that you've been assigned to. And when they're all finished, answering that single choice question, then we just click on open breakout rooms. It creates them, it opens them, it moves the people there. It is phenomenal.
Fantastic. I know.
Yeah.
I'm like jumping out of my seat here. I taught that in Phoenix, Arizona last week, and you do have to recreate the poll. So it's from my point of view, from what I found, you can't go into a poll that is already existing and turn it on. I had to create something new. And then, just tell it that you want to create a breakout room as a result of the answers. And just like that, which is, like you said, click on the option, which was the group you were assigned to. I would ask things like, are you using a Windows or a Mac? I often ask that, and I would love to put people in a Mac room or a Windows room. Other people I've talked to said, oh my goodness, they would use I'm new at this versus I'm an expert at this. And so they can split that way, and it's beautiful.
Well, yeah, I mean, you imagine, because there's a whole Zoom events platform, right? And now they just released what's called Zoom sessions as well, and it's all about these, they could be, sessions that run, on top of one another or behind each other. But, now you can fire up a single meeting, and that being the main event, the keynote room, if you will. And then you've advertised that there's, 10 breakout sessions, and one might be, just for the sake of technology, Windows, Mac, what are your interests, right? What breakout session did you really come to, attend? Just pop them up and they choose it, and away they go. And all the options of letting them come back to the main session or move amongst the other breakouts, they're still available. So you can either lock it down or keep it open like you used to as well. Some great stuff.
Yeah, we should do that. I don't know. We haven't even talked about any of this stuff, but we should do that one. that should be a Jeff Betsy workshop. So this has been great. So we're rounding down to the end of the hour. I know you've talked a little bit about best practices. Like that would be a best practice. That wouldn't, when you got ready today, and I know you required, I said, how about 30 minutes before? You were like, how about 45 minutes before? So when you're going to get ready to go on, like what are the, I'm going to say 5 things that keep you calm and knowing that you're going to run or be a guest at an event that runs glitch free?
Yeah, glitch free is a pretty high mark. You eliminate, the whole process is eliminating as many risks as possible. So it's just try to get to that high mark. I was in an event not too long ago that there were like 6 to 8 co-hosts in just the meeting I was managing, and I'm like, and they weren't helping me, but they had to be made co-hosts. It's like, okay. I mean, I had a boss, and it's like, make them co-hosts. I'm like, okay. I hate that. I mean, like, it is such it's like giving them the keys to the kingdom, and you don't know who they are. You don't know their skill level. They're not really there to be, but I'll tell you, part of the onus right now, in this case, part of the onus is on Zoom, because the reason most of them needed to be co-hosts was so that they could moderate Q&A. And so Zoom is forcing me to give the keys to the kingdom. And but because they can spotlight, they can mute people, that all of a sudden these mysterious things can happen to my show, and I'm not doing them, right? But it was a have to because of Q&A. And so, those are the things that we look out for and submit requests and see if it's on their list already, things like that. Framing and audio and if they're going to be doing the share, having them practice sharing and sometimes, they know how to share. But when you have dual displays and you have presentation mode in PowerPoint, the screens can be flipped, and you're sharing the presentation view versus the full screen slide. And so you teach them how to change that. Things, just simple things like that. Ideally, I own the decks and I pop it up quick, and I just teach them how to, because they're, built right into Zoom these days is the ability to just, it just pops up 2 little arrows down on the bottom that lets them forward and advance, or forward and reverse their slides. And once they click forward once with the mouse, because I really don't love doing anything on Zoom with a mouse, but do it once, then you can just bounce on your right arrow or left arrow of your keyboard, as long as Zoom keeps focus, and just easily, advance your slides. So, just practicing everything that's going to be done, and then you have to give them the cue clues, if you will, because normally I'm going, okay, we're ready. We got 5 or 10 minutes to go till live. I'm going to put up a slide. I'm going to be off camera. There's going to be music in the background. Here's your cue, because I can't talk to you. If I talk to you, everybody's going to hear it, right? And so I say, when you hear that music start to fade and the slide goes away and your picture is on the screen, that's your time to start the meeting, and you just give them those, indicators, so you don't have these uncomfortable pauses and so forth.
Those cues.
Big tip is, I'll show companion before we go to real quick, but biggest tip that I've got is don't run Zoom without 2 monitors, period.
Without 2 monitors. I'm sorry, I have to reiterate that. Yes.
Yeah. I'm telling you, some of the biggest challenges I have trying to help people pass problems and challenges and so forth are the ones that are on single monitors. It's difficult. I mean, all, the multiple windows, and they're one's on top of the other. And, like every once in a while you run into a computer system that produces the gray boxes, the Zoom boxes that are there. They're supposed to be invisible, but it doesn't work. And so you need screen real estate. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 monitors just around me. Now, they're not all connected to this one computer, but everything has a minimum of 2. And you just have to have that real estate to spread things out and make sense of things. It just causes confusion if you don't.
Yeah, many people who are watching, just so you know, are saying in the comments they have at least 3 or more. So it's becoming well known that if you're struggling, that's something to invest in.
It is. Yeah, it's a biggie. So a quick look. I know we're right at the end here, but having the right tools, whether it's you that want to try to conquer this and have the right tools and learn them, or just you're convinced, wow, it takes a lot more than I ever imagined, and your meetings will just go smoother if you can just focus on being the presenter and not the technologist. But I'm going to bring up my Mac screen. And I'm not going to make it functional or whatnot, but this is actually Companion. A BitFocus is the company. I guess it's a company, but it's an open source project. Companion is free. And so if you search BitFocus Companion, this is a free product, and it lets you build out. Now, the layout might look familiar to some of you that have Stream Decks, which are actual external hardware devices. But the hardware device is not required. You can run this off of an iPad or a computer screen with a mouse or a touch screen or whatnot as well. But if you want to bring it out to an iPad, you certainly can. So, it's just like these yellow buttons that are currently not populated because I'm not connected to this meeting with it. But the moment this ZoomOSC client connects to a meeting, these yellow buttons get automatically populated with the individual's names that are in each one of those gallery positions. So this page actually displays the names in the gallery positions, and then I can click on any of these. Let's say the first 2 buttons, for instance, need to speak. So I would select and select. So click and click, and then I just press the button called on stage. Boom. It unmutes them. It spotlights them all on a single button press. And then when they're finished talking, I just off stage them and it mutes them. If their hand was up, it lowers their hand. Even if it's a nice clean, gallery view and somebody raises their digital hand, which we know Zoom puts them in the top left corner, that's exactly what happens on this display as well, is they end up on that very first button and all the others to follow. So on the bottom, I can jump from gallery view or arrival order, like their arrival order top to bottom, which the main difference between that is arrival order never changes. That screen doesn't move around dynamically. That's the order they arrived. That's the way it's always displayed. Gallery view can change, right? Based on hands being raised and so forth. But it's a really consistent look and feel. And I can page through. You go, oh, well, that gallery is really small. That's only 18 displays. But I can page through my gallery and see them all as well. I'm not really concerned about all the others. The gallery is a beautiful display because raised hands always end up on my top left corner. All of them. It's fantastic. The other thing that we can do is, so there's the arrival order, is we can assign, like our panelists or our speakers, we can assign them to a group. So this is my group management page. And so I can pick them and assign them. Once they're assigned, then this is where I see the members of group 1. This is where I see the members. Whoops, I thought I had a group 2 built, guess not. But I can see the members of those groups. So then I can manage my show kind of by ignoring the rest of the audience and just managing the speakers that are in the groups. They won't disappear unless they disconnect. They don't move around because it's not a gallery view. And so it really, really does. But you can see other things. This is what I call the actions page. So every page we were at before had on the bottom right corner a button called actions. And the reason it's called actions is it always jumps. Every page will jump to this actions page. I can, like, if their hand is up and they're the next one that I'm going to call on and spotlight, but their camera's off, I can just select them, click on request video on, and it pops up a dialogue on their computer. And so just kind of a teaser of really what you can have built or know that your technician is leveraging these types of tools, which really helps ensure that, the experience will be solid, predictable, things like that. So
awesome. And for people to learn more about this, the Zoom Test Kitchen would be the best place to go next. This is something that you talk about there. I mean, I've heard you talk about there. Is it something that's coming
the last 2 weeks, we have actually focused on companion build. It's not a Stream Deck thing. That's just a device it can end up on. So it's really about Companion and ZoomOSC. And so Companion is what's letting us send and receive that data and those actions, if you will. And so building it out and how creative we can get. We've done that for the last 2 weeks. So I don't know that I'm going to continue to do it this week, but maybe. I mean, it's kind of hard to slow down that conversation at the moment because Companion is going under a major rewrite and upgrade. And so that's just super exciting of all the new things that we can do as well.
That's great, Jeff. Thank you so much. This was so informative. I know when you and I get talking about Zoom, it's I get very excited about things like polls to breakout rooms. And you have so much more knowledge about making a virtual event a show, like you said, and how the quality, the level of quality to get it glitch free or close to it. So thanks again. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me here. And thanks for all you're doing for the community as well. I think, I think what a lot of us learned during, the pandemic is it's better to share than hide things, and it's not the way the production world used to be, actually. They used to really hide their secrets and so forth. And, there's others doing, what we're doing as well. But share. And I'm not saying it all has to be for free, but give a little bit back, but make a living as well. But it's just important to share. So
definitely.
Come visit if you want. It doesn't cost you a thing but time, and I'll see you back there for sure, Betsy.
You'll see me there.
So it's been great to be here, and certainly
thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month here for the next member spotlight, and you'll see Jeff over in the Zoom Test Kitchen. So thanks, everybody, for joining in. We'll see you then. Okay, bye.